A failing son, a stolen final, and one principal willing to destroy the teacher who said no. Lena Ortiz was 42, an economics teacher who had spent 14 years at the same public high school, and she was about to be accused of selling its most important exam. At 6:40 on Monday morning, she found 20 copies of the senior economics final stacked beneath the trophy case. Every question was correct. The last page held the full answer key. Worse, the red handwritten changes on it matched the notes Lena had made during curriculum review in her own hand. Principal Graham Cole was 48, a former guidance counselor in his third year running the school. He arrived with security before Lena could even gather the pages, photographed her kneeling beside them, and asked her to hand over her laptop and her classroom keys. By 8, copies had reached nearly every senior. The final was canceled. The district suspended Lena pending investigation. Graham produced messages in which a student offered $200 for the full version. The replies came from an account using Lena's name and staff photograph. A scholarship student named Eli Warner said Lena handed him a sealed envelope after tutoring. The exam file had been stored in a restricted curriculum folder. Access logs showed Lena opened it Friday at 4:18, printed one copy, and left the building 12 minutes later. She had printed a draft. She placed it in the locked review cabinet before leaving. Graham said no one else used the curriculum office that evening. Then he held up a leaked page under the meeting room lights. In the bottom margin, Lena's red arrow pointed toward a revised answer. Her private edits had become the strongest evidence against her. Students began photographing the pages before security cleared the corridor. Within minutes, parents were sending Lena screenshots and asking whether their children had paid for answers. Graham instructed the communications office to say the leak was contained and that the responsible employee had been removed. Lena heard that sentence from the security room while an assistant inventoried her bag. She asked them to preserve the scattered originals instead of stacking them together. The guard said Graham had already ordered every copy placed in one evidence box. Any fingerprints, fibers, or page sequence were being mixed, while the school told the public the investigation was careful. Hi, I'm Ethan Cole, and this is Ethan After Dark, where I tell stories of betrayal, family secrets, revenge, and sweet justice. Now back to the story. The exam determined placement in an advanced university program. Graham's son, Caleb, needed the top economics score to preserve a conditional scholarship. Caleb was bright, popular, and failing Lena's course after missing assignments. Graham had asked Lena to allow a private retest. She refused because other students had been denied the same exception. The school also expected a major donation from Caleb's grandfather. The money would fund a science wing and cover a budget deficit Graham had concealed from staff. Lena had taught for 14 years. She was known for strict grading and for reporting pressure from wealthy parents. That history gave the district two possible stories. She was either the least likely teacher to leak an exam or someone angry enough to embarrass the administration. Graham chose the second. He said Lena released the answers after learning he planned to remove her as department chair. Her union attorney, Priya Nance, warned that motive would matter less than file access in Eli's statement. The fake payment account used prepaid cards, leaving no simple bank trail. Lena asked for the leaked originals. Graham said the district had secured them. She remembered the copy in his hand. Along one edge, tiny yellow specks formed a pattern almost too faint to see. Caleb's grade was not a small family embarrassment. Graham had presented his son's expected scholarship during a donor dinner and promised that the school would create a new economics lab with the family's matching gift. The budget already listed the money as committed. Lena had warned the finance committee that no signed pledge existed. Graham called her concern technical and asked her to focus on teaching. If Caleb lost eligibility, the gift vanished and the budget gap became visible before the board renewed Graham's contract. The review cabinet showed no forced entry. Graham and Lena possessed keys. A curriculum coordinator had a sealed emergency copy. Lena's draft was gone. The print log from Friday listed her staff ID, printer CR, and 32 pages. Graham said the leaked set must have been copied elsewhere because CR2 printed only monochrome. The red handwriting appeared original on the first seized packet and photocopied on later ones. Someone had taken Lena's annotated draft, printed or copied it in color, then reproduced the result. Eli repeated that Lena gave him an envelope. When asked to describe it, he said white with a school seal. Lena used plain folders for tutoring materials. Graham's office used sealed stationery for scholarship communications. That inconsistency weakened the statement without defeating it. Security footage showed Lena leave at 4:31. The curriculum camera then went offline during a scheduled software update. Graham's badge entered the administrative suite at 5:06, but he said he worked in his own office. The district treated his presence as ordinary and hers as suspicious. Lena's first defense depended on explaining why Graham might take the exam. She needed to prove which machine created the color original. Her union representative requested the cabinet lock, hallway video, printer cues, and access card records. The district preserved the laptop but allowed Graham to continue using his office. By Tuesday, the curriculum camera's maintenance window had overwritten its local buffer. A technician recovered Lena's legitimate Friday print and nothing from Saturday. That result strengthened Graham's account. He said a thief could have copied Lena's draft before she locked it away and printed elsewhere. The system designed to record access had produced a gap wide enough for either version. Priya obtained one leaked original from a parent before the district collected it. Under normal light, the margin looked clean except for Lena's copied red ink. Under blue light, a grid of microscopic yellow dots appeared across the page. Many color laser printers add machine identification patterns. The dots can encode a serial number and printing date. They are difficult to notice on white paper and survive ordinary handling. A document examiner photographed the grid and decoded a serial ending 4187. It did not belong to the curriculum copier. It belonged to the color printer inside Graham's private office. The pattern recorded Saturday at 9:36 p.m. Lena's access had been disabled Friday night, hours after she left. Graham claimed a custodian or intruder might have used his printer. His office required both a badge and a keypad code. He then challenged the science. Not every printer pattern is officially documented, and manufacturers do not promise forensic accuracy. The district refused to reinstate Lena based on one decoded sheet. The examiner needed control pages printed from Graham's machine and manufacturer confirmation of its dot format. Graham ordered the printer replaced before the union's evidence request arrived. The examiner cautioned Lena that tracking dots were not universal and were not a magic signature. Only certain color printers produced decodable patterns, and manufacturers documented them unevenly. A photocopy could weaken or alter the marks. They needed original pages, control prints from the suspected machine, and its actual serial plate. Lena returned to the evidence box and separated the least handled sheets with clean margins. The repeating pattern was present on all four. It did not yet name Graham. It justified preserving the one machine the district was preparing to discard. Facilities had not destroyed the printer. A technician wrapped it for surplus storage and recorded its serial number. Under a preservation order, the examiner printed test pages using the installed yellow cartridge. The dot grid matched the leaked exam in position, spacing, and serial encoding. Internal counters showed 47 color pages printed Saturday night. Graham said the machine could have been remotely accessed. The printer's queue history was cleared and remote printing was enabled for administrators. The network firewall complicated that explanation. No external job reached the printer that weekend. Its local USB port recorded an active connection at 9:34. Investigators found no USB drive. Graham said staff often borrowed his office. Lena requested keypad records. They showed one valid code entry at 9:29 using the principal's personal 6-digit code. Graham argued his assistant knew it. His assistant denied that and produced messages placing her out of town. The dots identified the machine and time. The keypad and USB connection narrowed access. Graham still had Eli's claim that Lena initiated the sale. Facilities manager Rosa Bell documented the printer before moving it. The toner door carried an unbroken maintenance label from Thursday. The internal page counter exceeded the Friday service reading by 47 sheets, almost exactly the leaked set plus jams and test pages. Graham said the difference came from routine color letters. Rosa checked the central queue and found no matching jobs. The missing pages entered through the local USB port, a connection available only beside the machine. Someone had stood inside the locked office while the school was empty. Eli agreed to a second interview after his mother obtained independent counsel. His scholarship recommendation required Graham's signature. He admitted Graham gave him the sealed envelope Saturday morning. It contained practice questions and instructions to meet Lena after tutoring so cameras would place them together. Eli never paid Lena. Graham created the payment account and told him the district would protect his scholarship if he described the exchange as a sale. Eli forwarded an audio message Graham forgot to delete. The principal said, "You received the packet from the person we discussed." He avoided Lena's name. Graham argued he was coaching a frightened witness to speak clearly. The phrasing remained ambiguous. Eli also surrendered the envelope. Its school seal carried a small tear matching a partial seal found in Graham's desk wastebasket. The adhesive held fibers from the same blue interoffice folder used to store Lena's draft. Lena did not excuse Eli's lie. Hundreds of students lost a fair examination, and her career had become the price of his scholarship. She also understood why Graham chose him. A witness with something to lose could be made to confuse obedience with survival. Eli did not immediately withdraw his statement. He asked whether telling the truth would cancel his recommendation and housing grant. Lena's representative could not promise otherwise. The district investigator offered him immunity for the like but not protection from school discipline. For 2 days, Eli repeated that Lena supplied the envelope. Then another student produced a message in which Eli wrote that he had been summoned to Graham's office Saturday morning. The message did not prove what happened inside. It proved the meeting he omitted was real. The surplus technician noticed a narrow strip of paper behind Graham's printer transfer unit. It was part of Lena's annotated draft, torn when a jam occurred. The fragment contained her red arrow and half of question 19. Yellow tracking dots crossed the white margin. Its torn fibers matched a missing corner on the original packet recovered from Eli. Graham said someone planted it after the printer entered storage. The service wrap carried his facilities manager's dated seal, unbroken until the examiner opened it. The printer's maintenance counter logged a jam at 9:38 Saturday between the first and last color pages. A technician had not entered the office that night. The fragment connected Lena's missing cabinet copy to Graham's machine during the dot-encoded print run. Investigators then recovered deleted preview thumbnails from the printer's memory. They were incomplete, but one showed the economics cover page and another showed the answer grid. No single recovery contained the entire exam. Together, the fragment, dot pattern, counter, keypad, and thumbnails described a local print job executed inside the principal's office. The trapped fragment became important because its torn edge matched the missing corner of Lena's Friday draft. She had marked that corner with a red question about a tax rate example. The fragment carried half the question and a trace of her red ink. A paper examiner aligned the fibers without claiming the join alone proved who printed it. Rose's sealed removal record showed the fragment remained behind the transfer unit from the moment facilities disconnected the machine. Graham could explain the dots or the draft as coincidence. Explaining both required Lena's paper to enter his printer during the hidden Saturday job. Caleb's scholarship required an economics grade of 92. Without intervention, his maximum possible grade was 84. His grandfather's donation agreement allowed withdrawal if Caleb lost the university place. Graham had already committed part of the expected money to cover a district audit shortage. Leaking the exam served 2 purposes. Caleb received the answers through a student group. and the public scandal allowed Graham to void all scores while arranging an individual replacement test he controlled. Blaming Lena removed the teacher most likely to challenge that exception. It also turned her earlier refusal into motive. Graham did not need every student to cheat. He needed the answers widespread enough to invalidate the exam and a credible source who already opposed him. The board preferred his story because admitting the principal compromised testing threatened accreditation, the donation, and confidence in other exams. Lena's suspension protected more than one administrator. It protected a budget built on money that had not arrived. The district finance officer admitted Graham had moved maintenance funds into the proposed economics lab after receiving only a verbal pledge. Roof repairs were delayed to keep the new program visible in recruitment material. If the donation disappeared, the transfer had to be disclosed. Canceling the exam gave Caleb another chance at the grade and bought Graham time to secure the pledge. Blaming Lena converted a financial decision into one employee's misconduct. The board had been willing to believe it because a single guilty teacher was easier to correct than a budget approved on hope. Caleb denied receiving the exam. Investigators found an unopened sealed packet inside a sports equipment locker registered to his teammate. The teammate said Caleb placed it there after learning the leak investigation had begun. The packet carried the same yellow dot code and print time as the pages in the hallway. Inside was a note listing the 6 topics Lena emphasized during review. The wording came from Graham's meeting notes, not Lena's class materials. Caleb admitted his father said the school would administer a practice version and that sharing it with friends would make the exercise more realistic. He claimed he did not know it was the final until students compared questions. His account showed Graham had not simply framed Lena after an accidental leak. He designed distribution to force cancellation. Caleb lost the scholarship and faced school discipline. Lena resisted pressure to describe him as the architect. He benefited, concealed the packet, and misled investigators. His father controlled the file, printer, witness, and promised consequence. Responsibility could be unequal without becoming absent. Lena asked the district not to publish Eli's name. He had carried the envelope, lied twice, and allowed classmates to use the pages. He had also been 17, dependent on the recommendation of the administrator directing him. The students who accepted copies faced a new exam and individual discipline based on what each had done. That decision angered parents who wanted one clean punishment. Lena had spent the week learning what clean stories concealed. She refused to clear herself by turning every pressured student into a smaller version of Graham. Graham offered Lena a confidential settlement. The district would restore back pay, remove misconduct from her record, and describe her departure as voluntary. In return, she would not release the printer analysis or challenge the canceled exam. Graham said a public fight would cost teachers their jobs when the donation disappeared. He framed silence as care for colleagues. The same argument had made his first story useful. Lena asked whether Eli's scholarship would remain. Graham said he could protect it if everyone stopped escalating. That answer confirmed the currency beneath every decision. Scores, statements, and reputations were adjustable if they preserved the funding agreement. Lena refused. She proposed that the district disclose the deficit, repeat the exam under independent control, and let the board decide cuts publicly. Graham called that idealism paid for by other people. Lena looked at the resignation line left blank for her signature. "You keep calling a choice impossible after you remove everyone allowed to make it," she said. She left the paper on the table. The resignation offer arrived with a confidentiality clause and a prepared statement saying system weaknesses made responsibility impossible to determine. It restored Lena's pay but not her name. Her attorney explained that rejecting it meant months without certainty and a public hearing where every message would be read aloud. Lena took the agreement home, placed it beside 14 years of evaluation reports, and imagined future schools seeing only a suspension that ended quietly. The next morning, she returned unsigned pages to the district and requested that the hearing remain open. At the hearing, Graham presented Lena's file access, read annotations, payment account, and Eli's first statement. The examiner illuminated a liked page. Yellow dots identified printer 4187 and Saturday at 9:36. Control prints reproduced the same grid. Keypad records showed Graham's code. The firewall excluded remote jobs. The jam counter and sealed paper fragment placed Lena's original draft inside the machine during the run. Eli withdrew his accusation and produced Graham's envelope. Caleb admitted receiving a packet described as practice. Financial records established the scholarship and donation deadline. Graham argued the dots could be misunderstood. The manufacturer confirmed the encoding scheme for that printer series and serial. The board terminated Graham, restored Lena, and referred the fabricated evidence and testing breach to authorities. An independent audit disclosed the budget gap. The science wing was delayed and staff positions were reduced through a public process rather than a concealed donation assumption. Lena's handwritten arrow had told investigators whose draft was stolen. The yellow dots told them who printed it. At the hearing, the examiner began with limitations. The marks could identify this preserved printer because control sheets reproduced the same serial pattern and clock offset. They could not prove who pressed print. Rosa then presented the counter, local port record, keypad entry, and sealed fragment. Eli described the Saturday meeting and the scholarship threat. The finance officer explained the missing pledge. Each witness answered a different question. By the time Graham called the pattern an unreliable internet theory, the case no longer depended on the dots alone. They had opened the correct door. The physical fragment and human choices showed what happened inside it. The seniors sat a replacement exam 3 weeks later. Questions came from an outside testing service. 2 observers witnessed printing, sealing, and distribution. Lena returned as department chair only after the district amended her record to state that the leak originated from the principal's office. Quiet reinstatement was not enough. Future employers needed the false finding corrected, not merely removed. Eli completed the year under a different scholarship program after accepting discipline and giving a full statement. Caleb transferred schools. Lena did not grade either student again. The district replaced the principal's printer, but Lena kept one authenticated control page in her legal file. Under ordinary classroom light, its margins appeared blank. She sometimes thought about how much authority had rested in things people could not see. A budget deficit, a donor condition, a frightened student's dependence, and microscopic yellow marks. Before the replacement exam, Lena watched the sealed packets arrive. She did not ask students to trust the adults who carried them. She asked the adults to follow a process that could be checked. The replacement final was written by 3 teachers and held by an outside testing service until examination morning. Students watched the sealed packets opened in each room. Lena did not treat the ceremony as proof that trust had returned. It gave everyone the same observable starting point. Before the new examination, Lena met the senior class without Graham or district council present. She answered questions about the lake but refused to name students who cooperated. One student asked why any test should matter after adults had manipulated the first one. Lena said a process could be damaged without making every honest effort inside it meaningless. The new safeguards did not ask students to forget. They allowed students to see who touched the paper when custody changed and how a challenge would be recorded. After grading, she placed 1 blank copy in the curriculum archive with the issue log and the final investigative report. The tiny yellow pattern was almost invisible on its margin. What mattered was not that a machine secretly marked paper. It was that the people responsible for the paper could no longer decide which records survived. Eli graduated after completing discipline and community service. His recommendation described both the pressure he faced and the false statement he corrected. Lena did not write it, but she reviewed it with him before it was sent. The letter neither erased his conduct nor reduced him to it. Graham's plan had depended on everyone accepting one convenient identity: guilty teacher, helpful principal, desperate student. The final record remained more difficult to summarize and therefore harder for one person to control. Lena kept teaching economics because incentives, incomplete information, and unequal power no longer felt like abstract terms. She did not use the leak as a classroom anecdote. Students already lived inside its consequences. She used ordinary examples and left the documented process available to anyone who needed to understand what the school had changed. And that's the end of this one. If it kept you up, do me one favor, hit subscribe. I tell a new story every single night, and I'd love to have you back. Good night.